They thought she'd stop, that she'd scream, that she'd give up. But Dr. Elena Vasquez, human, fragile by their standards, did the unthinkable. Crushed beneath tons of alien stone, her leg mangled beyond saving, her alien teammates prepared to call the mission off. Then, she pulled out a scalpel. No hesitation, no fear. She cut herself free, patched the wound, and ordered the team forward. In that moment, the Nexari, the Soruk, the Vexani species who had known war for centuries understood something terrifying. Humans don't surrender, not when they're bleeding, not when they're broken, and especially not when lives are on the line. This is the story of what they witnessed, and why the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Dr. Elena Vasquez adjusted her equipment harness one final time as the transport ship Harmony descended through the thick atmosphere of KYT Hera 7. The planet below was a nightmare of swirling acid storms and jagged crystalline formations that could slice through standard armor. Somewhere down there, 43 human colonists were trapped in underground shelters, waiting for rescue. Elena looked around the cramped passenger compartment at her 3 alien teammates. Each represented a different species in the newly formed Galactic Rescue Alliance, and each had volunteered for this dangerous mission. She was proud to lead such a diverse team, even though she could sense their doubts about her capabilities. Commander Zeftar of the Nexari shifted his crystalline body, creating soft musical chimes as his silicon-based limbs moved. His species evolved on high-gravity worlds with extreme temperatures, making them nearly indestructible by most standards. His translucent blue form sparkled with internal lights that indicated his emotional state. Right now, those lights flickered with concern. Dr. Vasquez, Zeftar said, his voice resonating like wind through crystal caves, I must express my species' continued worry about your participation in this mission. The atmospheric conditions on KYT Hera 7 are highly corrosive. Your organic tissue is vulnerable in ways that our mineral-based bodies are not. Warrior Grok snorted, a sound like grinding stone. The massive Soruk stood nearly 8 feet tall, his reptilian hide covered in natural armor plates that had evolved over millions of years. His people were honorable warriors who valued courage above all else, but they also valued practical thinking. The Nexari speaks truth. Human female, your species lacks proper protection. On my homeworld, such soft creatures would not survive one cycle of the burning season. If the third member of their team, Engineer Piptel, clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. The Vexani was insectoid, with 6 arms that could work independently and compound eyes that saw across multiple spectrums. His exoskeleton was naturally resistant to acids and extreme temperatures. Statistical analysis indicates human survival probability drops significantly in hostile environments. Perhaps it would be wise to remain aboard the ship while we complete the rescue operation. Elena smiled patiently. She had heard these concerns before, during their training exercises and mission briefings. The other species in the Alliance meant well, but they fundamentally misunderstood what made humans dangerous. It wasn't their physical strength or natural armor, it was something else entirely. I appreciate your concern, Elena said, checking her atmospheric suit one more time. But let me remind you why I'm team leader on this mission. I've studied the geology and xenobiology of hostile worlds for 15 years. I've survived situations that killed stronger, better equipped teams. And I've done it because humans have one advantage that your species might not fully understand. Zeftar's internal lights pulsed with curiosity. What advantage is that? We're too stubborn to die, Elena replied with a grin. When everything goes wrong, when the situation becomes impossible, humans have a tendency to get more determined, not less. You'll see. The ship's intercom crackled to life. Approaching landing zone, announced Captain Chen from the cockpit. Weather conditions are deteriorating. We have maybe 6 hours before the next acid storm cycle makes extraction. Impossible. Elena stood and moved to the window. Below them, the surface of KYT Hera 7 looked like an alien hellscape. Massive spires of black crystal jutted from the ground at impossible angles. Rivers of luminescent liquid flowed between the formations, Probably some form of concentrated acid that would eat through most materials in minutes. In the distance, she could see the swirling wall of an approaching storm, crackling with electrical discharge and carrying clouds of corrosive vapor. The colonists are trapped in the Meridian Valley cave system, Elena said, pointing to a dark opening in the crystal formations. Their emergency shelter is 3 kilometers underground. The surface route is impossible due to the storms, so we'll have to go through the cave network. Grok examined his weapon systems. What of the native life forms? Intelligence reports mention hostile creatures in the caves. Elena nodded grimly. Acid spitters and tunnel crawlers. Both species are highly aggressive and perfectly adapted to this environment. The colonists' last message mentioned being under attack. That was 18 hours ago. The ship touched down on a relatively flat area near the cave entrance. Elena could feel the landing strut sink slightly into the acidic soil. Already, she could see vapor rising from the ship's hull where the atmosphere was beginning to eat away at the protective coating. Remember, Elena said as they prepared to disembark. We stick together. The cave system is a maze, and it's easy to get lost. I'll navigate using the geological surveys. Zeftar, your crystalline body can resonate with the cave walls to detect structural weaknesses. Grok, you're our heavy weapons specialist. Piptel, monitor our equipment and communications. The 4-being team moved through the airlock and onto the surface of KYT Hera 7. The atmosphere was thick and yellowish, filled with suspended particles that glowed faintly in the dim light. Elena's suit immediately began registering environmental hazards, temperature fluctuations, corrosive atmosphere, unstable ground conditions, and high levels of radiation. How do humans survive on such worlds? Zeftar asked, his voice filled with genuine puzzlement. We don't just survive, Elena replied, leading them toward the cave entrance. We adapt. The cave mouth was larger than expected, easily 20 meters high and twice as wide. Ancient crystal formations created natural pillars that supported the entrance, but Elena could see signs of recent damage. Scoring marks on the walls suggested something large had recently passed through. Tunnel crawler sign, Grok observed, examining the marks with a professional eye. Large pack. Maybe 20 individuals. Fresh tracks leading deeper into the cave system. Elena activated her headlamp and checked her instruments. The colonists went this way. We follow the main tunnel for 2 kilometers, then branch left toward the shelter location. As they entered the cave, Elena noticed how her alien teammates moved. Zeftar flowed like liquid crystal, his body adapting to every surface. Grok stomped forward with the confidence of a creature that feared nothing. Piptel scuttled along the walls and ceiling with equal ease, his multiple limbs finding purchase on surfaces that would challenge a human climber. And then there was Elena, moving carefully but steadily, using her instruments and knowledge to navigate where her teammates used natural ability. The tunnel slopped downward at a steep angle. The walls were covered in the same black crystal formations they had seen on the surface, but here they pulsed with bioluminescent veins that created an eerie, shifting light. The air was thick with moisture and strange chemical smells that made Elena's environmental suit work harder to maintain safe breathing conditions. Dr. Vasquez, Piptel called from his position on the ceiling. Sensors detect movement ahead. Multiple heat signatures converging on our position. Elena raised her hand for silence. In the distance, she could hear a sound like wet leather dragging across stone. Something was coming toward them through the darkness. Acid spitters, she whispered. They hunt in packs and can spray corrosive compounds up to 30 meters. Their carapaces are resistant to energy weapons, but they have weak spots at the joints. Grok grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. Finally, worthy opponents. The first creature appeared at the edge of their light. It was roughly the size of a large dog, but built like a nightmare fusion of spider and lizard. 8 legs carried a segmented body covered in thick, chitinous armor. Its head ended in a proboscis that was already swelling as it prepared to spray acid. Spread out, Elena commanded. Don't let them surround us. The battle was intense, but brief. Grok's heavy weapons tore through the creature's armor, while Zeftar used his crystalline body to deflect their acid sprays. Piptel moved with incredible speed, striking vulnerable points with surgical precision. Elena coordinated their movements, calling out tactical information and keeping track of the bigger picture. When the last acid spitter fell, Grok looked at Elena with new respect. You fight well for a soft skin. Your tactical knowledge compensates for physical limitations. Elena smiled grimly. This was just the warm-up. The real challenges are deeper in the cave system. They continued descending through the tunnels. The further they went, the more obvious it became that this was not just a cave system, but some kind of ancient structure. The walls showed signs of artificial construction, with smooth surfaces and precise angles that suggested intelligent design. This place is old, Elena observed, running her hand along a wall covered in strange symbols. Maybe millions of years. The colonists' geological survey mentioned finding artificial structures, but they didn't realize the scale. Zephdar resonated with the walls, sending harmonic vibrations through the crystal formations. The structure extends for kilometers in all directions. This is not a cave system. It is a city, buried under geological time. As they moved deeper, Elena began to notice something troubling. The tunnel was becoming increasingly unstable. Cracks ran along the ceiling, and loose debris scattered the floor. Her instruments showed seismic activity in the area. The cave system is unstable, she warned her team. We need to move quickly. That's when they heard it. A sound that chilled Elena's blood despite her years of experience in dangerous situations. Human voices, screaming in terror somewhere in the darkness ahead. The colonists, Piptel said, his compound eyes reflecting their lights. They are under attack. Elena broke into a run, her teammates following. The tunnel ahead opened into a vast underground chamber, easily the size of a sports stadium. The ceiling was supported by massive crystal pillars, but many of them showed signs of damage. And there, huddled against the far wall, were the surviving colonists. They were surrounded by tunnel crawlers. These creatures were much larger than the acid spitters, each one the size of a small vehicle. They moved like enormous centipedes, with dozens of legs and segmented bodies covered in bony plates. Their heads were equipped with massive mandibles that could crush through most materials. 43 colonists went missing, Elena said grimly, counting the figures huddled in the emergency shelter. I see maybe 20 survivors. Grok checked his weapons. The tunnel crawlers are between us and the survivors. We must fight through. No, Elena said, studying the situation carefully. Look at the ceiling. Those support pillars are already damaged. Heavy weapons fire could bring down the entire chamber. We need a different approach. Zephdar's lights flickered with concern. Then how do we reach the survivors? Elena smiled, and for the first time, her alien teammates saw something in her expression that they recognized from their own species warriors. Pure, stubborn determination. We get creative, she said. Humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or the fastest. We did it by being smarter and more adaptable than everything that tried to kill us. Time to show you how that works. When Flesh Meets Furry, Lena studied the vast underground chamber, her mind racing through possibilities. The tunnel crawlers moved in predictable patterns, following scent trails and heat signatures. The colonists had managed to barricade themselves in what looked like an ancient structure built into the chamber wall, but their defenses were failing. I count 17 tunnel crawlers, she said quietly. They're using pack hunting tactics, rotating guards while others feed. The colonists can't hold out much longer. Grok growled low in his throat. My people would charge directly into battle. Honor demands it, and you'd bring down the ceiling, killing everyone, Elena replied. Sometimes honor means choosing the harder path. She pulled out her portable surveying equipment and began taking measurements of the chamber. Zephdar, I need you to resonate with the crystal formations. Map out the stress points in the ceiling. Piptel, analyze the tunnel crawlers' movement patterns. I want to know their hunting behavior down to the second. As her teammates worked, Elena noticed something crucial. The ancient city's builders had constructed drainage channels throughout the chamber. The channels were filled with the same luminescent liquid they had seen on the surface, probably a form of concentrated acid that had been building up for centuries. The drainage system, she murmured. If we could redirect the flow, Dr. Vasquez. Piptel called softly, Am detecting unstable geological conditions. The recent seismic activity has weakened the chamber's structural integrity significantly. Elena nodded. That's what I was afraid of. This whole area is one major vibration away from collapse. We need to extract the colonists without triggering a cave-in. Zeftar's harmonic resonance painted a three-dimensional map of the chamber's stress points in Elena's mind. The situation was worse than she had thought. Several of the support pillars were already cracked, and the weight distribution was critically unbalanced. There, Elena said, pointing to a narrow passage that led around the chamber's perimeter. We can use the ancient drainage tunnels to get close to the colonists without alerting the tunnel crawlers. But it means crawling through spaces barely wide enough for a human. Grok looked at the narrow opening skeptically. My body will not fit through such a passage. Mine either, Zeftar admitted. My crystalline structure requires more space to maintain integrity. Piptel examined the tunnel with his compound eyes. I could navigate it, but I lack the strength to carry colonists back through such a confined space. Elena felt the weight of leadership settle on her shoulders. Then I go alone. I can make it through the drainage tunnels, reach the colonists, and guide them back through the passage one at a time. Absolutely not, Grok protested. You are the most vulnerable member of our team. Sending you alone into danger violates every tactical principle. Sometimes tactical principles have to be flexible, Elena replied. I'm the only one who can fit through that passage and still have the knowledge to navigate the ancient city's layout. She began redistributing her equipment, keeping only essential items. You three will create a distraction. Make noise, use lights, draw the tunnel crawlers toward the main entrance. Keep them busy while I evacuate the colonists. Elena squeezed into the drainage tunnel. The space was barely wide enough for her shoulders, and the walls were slick with accumulated moisture and organic residue from centuries of use. The luminescent liquid flowing through the bottom of the channel gave off a chemical smell that made her environmental suit's filters work overtime. Moving through the tunnel was exhausting work. Elena had to worm her way forward using her elbows and knees, pushing her equipment ahead of her. The tunnel curved and branched in ways that would have been impossible to navigate without her geological surveys. Behind her, she could hear her teammates beginning their distraction. Grok's heavy weapons fire echoed through the chamber, while Zeftar created harmonic disruptions that confused the tunnel crawlers' hunting instincts. Piptel's rapid movements generated enough heat signatures to make the creatures think they were facing a much larger force. The plan was working. Elena could hear the tunnel crawlers moving away from the colonists' position, drawn toward the apparent threat at the chamber's main entrance. Elena emerged from the drainage tunnel inside the ancient structure where the colonists had taken shelter. The space was larger than it had appeared from outside, with multiple rooms carved from solid crystal. The architecture was unlike anything in human or known alien databases, suggesting a species that had vanished long before any current galactic civilization had developed space travel. Dr. Vasquez. The voice belonged to Dr. James Park, the colonial expedition's leader. He was a middle-aged xenarchaeologist who looked like he had been through hell. His clothes were torn, his face was covered in cuts and bruises, and his eyes held the hollow look of someone who had seen too much death. Thank God you're here, Dr. Park continued. I wasn't sure anyone would make it through. We've lost so many people. Elena quickly assessed the survivors. 19 colonists, including 3 children. Most were injured, some severely. They had been trapped for over 24 hours with limited food and water, and several showed signs of infection from wounds inflicted by the creature's claws. We're getting you out of here, Elena said firmly. But we have to move fast and quiet. The tunnel crawlers are distracted for now, but that won't last long. She led the first group of colonists back to the drainage tunnel entrance. This is going to be tight, and it's going to be unpleasant, but it's our only way out. Stay low, stay quiet, and follow my lead. The evacuation was slower than Elena had hoped. The injured colonists had difficulty navigating the narrow tunnel, and she had to make multiple trips to guide different groups. Her teammates continued their distraction, but Elena could tell from the sounds of battle that the tunnel crawlers were becoming more aggressive and organized. On her 4th trip through the drainage tunnel, disaster struck. Elena was guiding Dr. Park and two other colonists when the chamber's structural instability finally reached its breaking point. The continued weapons fire and creature movement had created vibrations that the ancient crystal supports could no longer absorb. The ceiling began to collapse. Elena heard the grinding, cracking sound of massive crystal formations breaking apart. Tons of debris crashed down into the chamber, and the shock waves traveled through the tunnel system like an earthquake. The drainage tunnel Elena was crawling through suddenly contracted as the surrounding structure shifted. She felt a massive weight slam down on her left leg, just below the knee. The pain was immediate and overwhelming, shooting through her nervous system like liquid fire. Dr. Park, who was behind her in the tunnel, called out in panic. "Dr. Vasquez, are you hurt?" Elena tried to move her leg and immediately knew the situation was catastrophic. The falling debris had not just pinned her leg, it had crushed it completely. She could feel bones grinding against each other, and the warm sensation of blood filling her boot told her that major blood vessels had been severed. "Dr. Park," Elena said, fighting to keep her voice steady, "I need you to listen carefully. My leg is trapped and badly damaged. You need to get the other colonists back to the main chamber. My teammates will get you to safety. We're not leaving. You hear?" Dr. Park protested. Elena reached into her medical kit with trembling hands. The pain was making it difficult to think clearly, but she knew she had only minutes before blood loss would make her unconscious. "You don't have a choice. This tunnel is going to collapse completely." She pulled out a battlefield tourniquet and wrapped it around her thigh, above the injury. The pain doubled when she tightened it, but the bleeding slowed. Next came the emergency medical foam, designed to seal wounds and prevent infection in extreme situations. "Dr. Vasquez," Dr. Park said, his voice breaking, "there has to be another way." Elena looked at her trapped leg, then at the medical saw in her kit. She had trained for this scenario in military survival courses, but she had never imagined actually having to implement it. "There is another way," she said quietly. 10 minutes later, Elena crawled out of the collapsed drainage tunnel. Her left leg was gone from just below the knee, the stump sealed with medical foam and wrapped in emergency bandages. Dr. Park and the other colonists stared at her in shock. "How are you still conscious?" Dr. Park whispered. Elena leaned against the crystal wall, fighting waves of pain and nausea. "Because we're not done yet. There are still people who need to be rescued." She activated her radio. "Grok, Zeftar, Piptel, report status." Grok's voice crackled through the static. "Elena, the chamber is collapsing. We must evacuate immediate." "Negative," Elena replied. "I have survivors with me. Continue the distraction for 10 more minutes." "Elena," Zeftar's voice was filled with concern, "your vital signs are critical. You require immediate medical attention." Elena struggled to her feet, or rather, foot. Using her rifle as a makeshift crutch, she began leading the colonists toward the chamber's emergency exit. "Medical attention can wait. Mission comes first." The tunnel crawlers had been confused by the chamber collapse, but they were beginning to regroup. Elena could see their segmented bodies picking through the debris, searching for prey. Between her position and the exit were at least 6 of the massive creatures. "Dr. Park," Elena said, "when I give the signal, you and the others run for that exit passage. Don't stop, don't look back, don't try to help me, just run." "What about you?" Elena checked her weapon and activated a pair of incendiary grenades. "I'm going to make sure you make it out." The battle that followed would be remembered by the surviving colonists for the rest of their lives. Elena, balancing on one leg and using her rifle as both a weapon and a crutch, fought 6 tunnel crawlers in single combat. She used the ancient architecture to her advantage, positioning herself in narrow passages where the creatures couldn't surround her. Her missing leg, ironically, became an advantage. Her smaller profile allowed her to take cover in spaces that would have been impossible to use before her injury. She could brace herself against walls and supports in ways that actually steadied her aim. When the tunnel crawlers finally lay dead, Elena collapsed against a crystal pillar. Her alien teammates found her there, conscious but barely, still guarding the passage that had allowed the colonists to escape. "Elena," Grok said, his voice filled with something that might have been awe, "you continued fighting after losing." A limb. My people sing songs of such warriors. Had to, Elena whispered. People depending on me. Zeftar's crystalline body pulsed with colors Elena had never seen before. I do not understand how your species functions. By all logical parameters, you should have been incapacitated by such trauma. Piptel was already applying advanced medical treatments to Elena's wounds. Statistical analysis indicates your survival was approximately 0.3% probable. Yet here you are. Elena managed a weak smile. Humans don't pay much attention to statistics. The unbreakable Spirith medical bay aboard the Starship Harmony hummed with activity as Elena slowly regained consciousness. Her body felt strange, disconnected somehow, until the memories came flooding back. The cave, the collapse, the choice she had made to ensure the mission's success. She looked down at her left leg, or where her left leg should have been. The stump was wrapped in advanced regenerative bandages that promoted healing while preventing infection. Dr. Zara Keth, the ship's chief medical officer, noticed her stirring. "Welcome back," Dr. Kim said with a gentle smile. "You've been unconscious for 18 hours. How do you feel?" Elena tested her mental faculties first, then tried moving her arms and remaining leg. Everything seemed to be working properly. Like I got into an argument with the collapsing cave and lost half the debate. Dr. Kim chuckled. That might be the most optimistic way ever heard someone describe traumatic amputation. Your alien teammates have been asking about you constantly. They seem quite concerned. Elena shifted in the medical bed, already calculating how long it would take to return to active duty. What's the status on the colonists? All 19 survivors are stable. 2 required surgery for infected wounds, but they'll make full recoveries. Dr. Park specifically asked me to tell you that he's recommending you for the Galactic Rescue Service's highest commendation. Elena waved off the praise. Just doing my job. What about my teammates? Are they okay? Physically, they're fine. Psychologically, well, that's more complicated. I don't think they quite know what to make of what they witnessed. Elena was about to ask what she meant when the medical bay doors opened. Commander Zeftar flowed into the room, his crystalline body chiming with agitated harmonics. Behind him came Warrior Grok and Engineer Piptel, both moving with the careful deliberation of beings wrestling with concepts that challenge their fundamental understanding of biology and psychology. "Dr. Vasquez," Zeftar said, his voice resonating with complex emotions, "we must speak with you about your actions during the mission." Elena propped herself up in the medical bed. "Did I do something wrong?" Grok stepped forward, his massive form casting shadows across the room. "Wrong? No, human Elena. You did something impossible. My people have legends of warriors who fought on after losing limbs, but we considered them myths. Stories told to inspire courage in young warriors." Piptel's compound eyes focused on Elena with intense curiosity. "I have been analyzing our mission recordings. Your combat effectiveness actually increased after your injury. This contradicts every biological model my species has developed." Elena looked at her 3 teammates with growing understanding. "You want to know how I kept fighting?" Zeftar's internal lights pulsed in a pattern that Elena had learned indicated deep thought. "Our species have different strengths. The Nexari can regenerate from almost any injury given time. But we must retreat to safety and enter a dormant state while our crystalline matrix rebuilds. You continued the mission immediately after severe trauma. The Sorok are bred for battle," Grok added. "Our armor and healing abilities make us formidable warriors. But even we would withdraw from combat after losing a limb, waiting for regeneration to begin." Piptel clicked his mandibles. "The Vexeni have redundant biological systems. We can survive the loss of multiple limbs, but our psychological conditioning requires time to adapt to changed capabilities." "You adapted instantly." Elena realized this was about more than just curiosity. Her teammates were struggling to understand something that challenged their basic assumptions about biological limitations and combat psychology. "Can I tell you about my species?" Elena asked. "Really tell you, not just the technical specifications from our diplomatic files?" The 3 aliens moved closer, their attention completely focused on her words. Humans evolved on a world that was actively trying to kill us, Elena began. Most planets that develop life are relatively stable. Ours wasn't. We had ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and mass extinctions on a regular basis. Any species that survived on Earth had to be incredibly adaptable. She gestured to her missing leg. But the really important adaptation wasn't physical, it was psychological. Humans developed the ability to continue functioning under extreme stress, because giving up meant death. Not just individual death, but species extinction. Grok leaned forward. You mean your entire species carries battlefield conditioning? In a way, yes. We call it different things: determination, stubbornness, grit, but it's all the same basic trait. When humans are pushed to their limits, instead of breaking down, we often become more focused and effective. Elena shifted in the bed, warming to her subject. Let me give you an example. On Earth, humans used to hunt animals much larger and stronger than themselves. We couldn't outrun them or overpower them, so we developed persistence hunting. We would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Piptel's eyes widened. You hunted by refusing to give up? Exactly. And that hunting strategy shaped our psychology. When humans face impossible odds, our instinct isn't to retreat, it's to become more persistent. Zeftar resonated thoughtfully. This explains your behavior during the mission. When you lost your leg, your psychological conditioning interpreted it as an escalation of the threat, not a reason to withdraw. Elena nodded. Plus, losing the leg actually made me more effective in some ways. I could fit through smaller spaces. My center of gravity was lower and more stable, and I didn't have to worry about protecting a damaged limb. You turned a severe injury into a tactical advantage, Grok said with obvious admiration. This is why humans are dangerous opponents. Elena smiled. We're not dangerous because we're strong or fast or naturally armored. We're dangerous because we're too stubborn to recognize when we're beaten. Dr. Kim, who had been listening to the conversation, cleared her throat. Speaking of stubbornness, I have some news about your recovery, Elena. The medical fabricators have constructed a prosthetic leg specifically designed for your physiology and combat requirements. She activated a holographic display showing a sleek artificial limb that looked more advanced than anything Elena had seen before. The prosthetic incorporated technology from all three alien species: Nexari crystal mattresses for durability, Sorok biomechanical interfaces for strength, and Vexani neural networking for precise control. Your teammates insisted on contributing their species' best medical technology, Dr. Kim explained. Commander Zeftar provided the crystalline framework, Warrior Grok contributed the impact-resistant armor plating, and Engineer Piptel designed the neural interface system. Elena looked at her teammates with surprise and gratitude. You did this for me? Zeftar's lights pulsed with warm colors. We wished to understand human resilience. Contributing to your recovery seemed the most logical approach. Grok nodded gravely. A warrior who fights as you fought deserves the finest equipment available, Piptel added. Besides, we are curious to observe how a human adapts to cybernetic enhancement. This will provide valuable data for future human-alien cooperation. Elena laughed, recognizing the scientific curiosity that motivated her insectoid teammate. You want to study me? We want to understand you, Zeftar corrected. Your species has capabilities that our civilizations lack. If we can comprehend these abilities, perhaps we can all become stronger. 3 weeks later, Elena stood on the bridge of the Harmony, her new prosthetic leg functioning flawlessly. The artificial limb was stronger than her original leg, completely immune to environmental damage, and equipped with sensors that actually enhanced her ability to navigate difficult terrain. She was reviewing mission reports when Captain Chen approached. Elena, I have a new assignment for your team. Another rescue operation, this one on Proxima Centauri B. The local government specifically requested you and your alien partners. Elena looked at the mission briefing. It was another high-risk operation in a hostile environment, the kind of assignment that most teams would consider nearly impossible. They asked for us specifically? Elena asked. Captain Chen smiled. Apparently, word has gotten around about what happened on KYT Hera 7. The Galactic Rescue Service is calling your team, the Unbreakables. They want you for missions where standard protocols aren't sufficient. Elena felt a surge of pride. Not just for herself, but for her teammates. They had all grown during their time together, learning to appreciate each other's unique strengths. Commander Zeftar approached, having overheard the conversation. Dr. Vasquez, are you prepared for another dangerous mission so soon after your recovery? Elena tested her prosthetic leg, feeling the solid connection between artificial and biological systems. The limb responded to her thoughts as naturally as her original leg had. I'm ready. Are you? Warrior Grok joined them, his armor gleaming under the bridge lights. I would be honored to fight alongside the human who taught us that losing a battle is not the same as being defeated. Engineer Piptel scuttled over, his multiple arms carrying various technical readouts. Statistical analysis indicates our team effectiveness has increased by 47% since the KYT Hera 7 mission. I hypothesize this improvement results from enhanced understanding of human psychological resilience. Elena looked at her three teammates, remembering how they had started this journey. Zeftar had been concerned about human fragility. Grok had doubted her ability to survive in combat. Piptel had calculated her survival probability as negligible. Now, they worked together as a unified team, member contributing their unique abilities while understanding and respecting the other's strengths. There's something I want you all to understand, Elena said. What happened on KYT Hera 7 wasn't about me being special or extraordinary. Any human would have done the same thing in that situation. We're trained from childhood to keep going when things get difficult. Zeftar's crystalline form chimed thoughtfully. Perhaps that is what makes humans special. Not that you possess extraordinary abilities, but that you consider extraordinary determination to be ordinary. Elena smiled at the insight. Maybe you're right. On Earth, we have a saying, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Means that difficulties don't stop us, they motivate us to work harder. Captain Chen handed Elena the mission briefing. Well, you're about to have another chance to demonstrate that philosophy. The Proxima Centauri B situation involves a research station trapped beneath an ice shelf. The rescue window is extremely narrow, and the environmental conditions are among the most dangerous on record. Elena scanned the technical specifications. Sub-zero temperatures, crushing atmospheric pressure, and stable ice formations, and unknown alien life forms. It was exactly the kind of mission that would test every skill they had developed. How long do we have to prepare? Elena asked. 6 hours, Captain Chen replied. The ice shelf is shifting. If we don't extract the researchers within the next 48 hours, the entire station will be crushed. Grok examined his weapon systems. 48 hours to plan, infiltrate, locate survivors, and extract them from a hostile environment. These are challenging parameters. Piptel was already calculating logistics. Based on our previous mission performance, success probability is. Actually, I will not calculate probability. I have learned that humans do not find such analysis helpful. Elena laughed. You're learning. Humans tend to focus on how to succeed rather than whether we can succeed. As they prepared for the new mission, Elena reflected on how much had changed. Her prosthetic leg was already feeling natural, and she was discovering capabilities she hadn't possessed before. The artificial limb never got tired, provided enhanced stability, and was equipped with sensors that could detect structural weaknesses in ice and rock. More importantly, her relationship with her alien teammates had evolved from cautious cooperation to genuine partnership. They had learned to value human determination and adaptability, while she had gained deep respect for their unique abilities and perspectives. Dr. Vasquez, Zeftar said as they boarded the transport shuttle, I have been wondering about something. When you lost your leg, you said humans are too stubborn to die. Is this literally true? Elena considered the question. Seriously, not literally, no. Humans die just like any other species. But we have a psychological trait that makes us keep fighting even when logic says we should give up. Sometimes that stubbornness is the difference between life and death. She looked out the shuttle window at the stars ahead. My species learned long ago that the universe doesn't care about our limitations. It doesn't matter if we're weaker or slower or more fragile than other species. What matters is that we refuse to let limitations define what we can accomplish. Grok nodded slowly. This is wisdom that my people can learn from. We have always focused on being strong enough to overcome challenges. Perhaps it is better to be determined enough to overcome them. Both approaches have value, Elena replied. That's why we work well together. Your strength, Zeftar's resilience, Piptel's technical expertise, and human determination were stronger as a team than any of us could be alone. The shuttle approached Proxima Centauri b, and Elena could see the planet's ice-covered surface gleaming in the pale light of its red dwarf star. Somewhere beneath that frozen landscape, researchers were waiting for rescue, probably wondering if help would come in time. Elena checked her equipment one final time, including the specialized gear designed for Arctic operations. Her prosthetic leg was equipped with ice spikes and heating elements, making her more capable in frozen environments than she had ever been with her original limb. Ready for another impossible mission? She asked her teammates. Zeftar's internal lights pulsed with confidence. With humans, I am beginning to suspect that impossible is simply another word for difficult. Grok secured his Arctic combat gear. I am eager to see how human stubbornness performs in sub-zero temperatures. Piptel activated his environmental suit's heating systems. I have discontinued probability calculations for missions involving humans. The variables are too unpredictable for accurate mathematical modeling. Elena smiled as the shuttle entered the planet's atmosphere. Then let's go show the universe what unpredictable variables can accomplish. As they descended toward the ice-covered surface, Elena thought about the colonists they had rescued from KYT Hera 7. All 19 survivors had made full recoveries and returned to their families. Dr. Park had kept his promise about recommending her for commendation, but more importantly, he had written a detailed report about human psychological resilience that was now being studied by xenopsychologists throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Rescue Service had also implemented new protocols based on their mission. Human teams were now specifically assigned to situations where conventional rescue operations had failed. The understanding that humans could continue functioning under extreme stress had opened up new possibilities for rescue operations throughout known space. Elena's story had spread beyond military and rescue services. On planets throughout the galaxy, different species were studying human psychology, trying to understand the mental frameworks that allowed humans to thrive under adversity. Some were even implementing human-inspired training programs to help their own people develop greater psychological resilience. But perhaps most importantly, the mission had changed how the three major alien species viewed humanity. No longer were humans seen as fragile creatures requiring protection. They were recognized as valuable partners who brought unique capabilities to any cooperative effort. The shuttle touched down on the ice shelf, and Elena felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that accompanied the beginning of a dangerous mission. Through the window, she could see the research station's emergency beacon flashing beneath several meters of ice. Another day, another impossible rescue, Elena said, standing and testing her prosthetic leg's ice configuration. Ready to show the universe that humans don't know when to quit? Her alien teammates looked at her with expressions that had become familiar, a mixture of respect, curiosity, and anticipation. They had learned that when humans said something was impossible, it usually just meant they hadn't figured out how to do it yet. Elena activated her communicator. Research Station Proxima Alpha. This is Galactic Rescue Team Unbreakable. We're here to get you home. The response came back immediately, filled with relief and hope. Team Unbreakable, thank God you're here. We've heard about you. If anyone can get us out of this, it's the human who kept fighting after losing a leg. Elena looked at her teammates and grinned. Looks like our reputation precedes us. Let's go prove that reputation is justified. As they stepped out onto the frozen surface of Proxima Centauri b, Elena reflected on the journey that had brought them here. She had lost a leg, but gained something more valuable: the absolute trust and respect of her alien partners, and the knowledge that humans had capabilities that extended far beyond their physical limitations. The ice beneath her feet was treacherous, but her prosthetic leg provided perfect stability. The wind was fierce enough to knock over most humans, but Elena had learned to use her altered center of gravity to her advantage. The temperature was low enough to kill an unprotected human in minutes, but her environmental suit and determination would keep her going for hours. She was still human. She was still fragile compared to her alien teammates, but she was also proof that being fragile didn't mean being weak, and that the most important battles were won not with strength or speed, but with the simple refusal to give up. The rescue of Proxima Alpha would be another chapter in the growing legend of human determination. But for Elena, it was just another day of doing what humans had always done: adapting, overcoming, and refusing to let the universe's challenges define their limitations. After all, humans were too stubborn to die, and sometimes that stubborn refusal to quit was exactly what the universe needed.